I need to talk to you guys about the co-main event and about Big Dan Miragliotta and about the constant, I mean, and we're going to get into it with the Kyle Nelson fight as well. What the fuck? What the fuck, man? Like, first of all, the Kyle Nelson fight was worse. In case you missed it with the Kyle Nelson fight, he's fighting Matt Frevola. Big Dan's the referee in that fight, and he was the referee also in the Mike Malott versus Kevin Holland fight. In the Kyle Nelson fight, it seems pretty damn clear while watching it that the fight is stopped with 3 seconds left in the first round. Kyle Nelson wins via first round TKO. Ground and pound. I didn't think it was a bad stoppage at all. It seemed like Frevola was out. He was stumbling when he gets all that stuff. Like, this wasn't Jake Matthews against Neil Magny in the sense that, like, what? Where's the stoppage? Where did this come from? It seemed pretty clear. 3 seconds left. That's when it stops. Then all of a sudden, you're watching. They go to their respective corners, and now it seems like the fight is continuing. Now, I have to give massive props to the UFC broadcast. They didn't shy away from this. Like, they covered it, and they showed you replays, and they showed you the clock, and they did not try to, sugarcoat it or sweep it under the rug. They even went to Mark Ratner, and it was almost like hard for him because I know Mark is such a good guy. He doesn't want to throw Dan under the bus necessarily, but they even went to Mark Ratner, and he's like, yeah, that probably should have been stopped too. Like, he was a little uncomfortable saying it. The fight continues, and in the end, Kyle Nelson wins via decision. So it's different from the Matthews fight in that in the Matthews fight, he was at least somewhat declared winner. He thinks the fight's over, and then he ends up losing in heartbreaking fashion. So in the end, you could say the right guy won. But they fought for 2 more rounds. And they said that he thought that he heard the horn. What? Even if he thought he heard the horn, he still stopped the fight. The fight's over. You can't just be like, whoops, actually there were 3 seconds left. You stopped the fight. It's over, for better or worse. And in this case, it was actually the right call. The fight should have been stopped. Why did you continue? Now, I ask this question because we'll never get the answer, because they don't do media, they don't talk, they don't put out any sort of statement afterwards. There's nothing. And it's happening every single week now. There's like a pool of 5 or 6 referees in this sport. It's the same guys for the last 15 years or so. There's no new blood. There's no good guys. None of them are getting paid. There's no incentive to come into the sport and do this. There's no incentive to develop and get better. And meanwhile, now with the rise of gambling, you're getting these ugly scenes of people losing their mind because there's so much at stake here. And it's putting this dark and ugly cloud over the events. I still can't understand what he was thinking, because even if he says that he heard the horn, you still stop the fight. You still stop the fight. So heard the horn or not, you stop the fight. The fight's over, right?
I have two. You said you laid that out very well. I have 2 main issues. One, immediately after the bell, Dan goes to Nelson and says the fight is still on. He's saying it was not a stoppage. My number one issue is, how did nobody correct that, right? If someone needs to say, somebody needs to tell him, hey, Dan, you got that wrong. You stopped that fight. There were 3 seconds left on the clock. That's now a TKO. Secondarily, they seem to have gone to replay, watched what happened, and then at no point from then did anybody step in, right? There's a replay official. There's something that allows you to now frame by frame go and say, okay, this is what happened, and at no point did they then interject there. This, even if you ring the bell for round 2, you have to go back and correct this. This is unforgivably bad. There is no reason for them to continue to fight on. There's no reason for them to take potential damage. There's no reason for Kyle Nelson to have what happened to Jake Matthews, which is, I've won this fight and now I lose it later in the fight. It's unforgivable. It is egregious because they have the tools at their disposal to fix this. This is not a difficult call. This is not, I made a wrong judgment call. This is, I stopped the fight. The fight's over. There's no debate. There's no argument. There's no thing that can change that. It doesn't matter what he thinks he heard. He stopped the fight and they stopped fighting. It should be over. It should have been overturned right there, right then, and become a TKO. And I just don't have sympathy for it.
Kyle is such a good guy that even in the post presser, he was so polite and Canadian-like when talking about it. But think about the feeling of being like, oh my God, I won, I can exhale, you know what I mean? And then you're like, oh, that's very dangerous. Now, he got lucky, Jake Matthews didn't. This is an awful call. And then the way in which he handled the Mike Malott, Kevin Holland situation was also pretty damn bad. First of all, 2 shots below the belt, one shot, and we're going to have Mike on, and I'm going to ask him these questions. And I don't think that Mike is a bad guy. I think he's actually a great guy. I don't think he's a dirty fighter at all. I don't think it's malicious. I don't even think it's intentional. But again, enough of this intentional, non-intentional nonsense. No one intentionally tries to foul their opponent. Unless you're going out there and like you could see it on your face that you've got a few screws loose and that you're an evil, malicious person. No one's trying to ruin the fight. No one's trying to end the fight unceremoniously. No one's trying to get penalized. It just happens in the flow of the fight. Two guys kick at the same time. You misjudge things. Like, no one's trying to get blocked in basketball. No one's trying to go off sides in football. But you do make mistakes, and those mistakes need to be penalized. And so when you see it happen once, okay, more often than not, there's a warning. You see it happen twice to the point where the opponent, the guy who got hit, Kevin Holland, can't stand, has used up all the 5 minutes. You still don't take away a point? And then the round ends, and then the second round starts, and now the doctor is coming in, is being called in. Why wasn't the doctor called in, when he was using up the 5 minutes? Because the problem is, if the fight would have been stopped when the doctor came in after the first round was over, and Kevin can't fight, now he loses via DQ. How does that make sense? Because it didn't happen within the 5 minutes. A point should have been taken away. He should have had better command of the situation. Doctors should be brought in when it's very clear that Kevin is unable to, stand up. And then, this is no knock on him per se, but this rule that like, okay, now the doctor is going to come in afterwards, and because Kevin can't continue due to a foul that happened, in the previous round, now he loses via DQ is crazy to me. Point is, he's unsure of himself. These are people's lives at stake. These are people's, health at stake. And I just thought those two showings, after a string of some really bad showings over the, like we talked about Keith Peterson recently, it's like, how many times is this going to happen? And the truth is, I don't know what the answer is. Other than the fact that, look, everyone knows that these officials and refs and judges don't work for the promotion. They can't work for the promotion. They just can't. There needs to be a separation between church and state. But you're all fooling yourself if you don't think that they have constant contact with the promotion, with Mark Ratner, with everyone involved. It all kind of like, you're telling me these people don't talk? You're telling me they don't have a say? You're telling me when the UFC doesn't like someone that person doesn't work the card? Of course that happens. And so to me, it would behoove the UFC to just be like, we're going to pour X amount of money to getting new people and incentivizing these people to be, reffing our events and judging our events, because it only reflects poorly on us, the major leagues of this sport, when this stuff continues to happen. And these guys are 10-year, 15-year, 20-year veterans of the sport, and these aren't newcomers. And they're making these boneheaded decisions, these unsure of themselves decisions, these decisions that make no sense whatsoever. And it continues to happen time and again, time and again, time and again. And the UFC just kind of washes its hands of it because they say, we don't pick these guys. They're right. But ultimately, it reflects on their product. Ultimately, people are like, yo, this seems a little bit crazy. This seems suspect. This seems a little bit corrupt. Even though the intention isn't corrupt, you can't make mistakes like that. There's too much money at stake. There's too much at stake for the fighters and their lives and their purses and their pay as well. It's just, you watch it and you're like, what is this sport? It's an unserious sport.
Referees are going to make mistakes. That's never going to be eliminated. My issue is, if the mistake is made, you have a very easy and simple and effective opportunity to correct that mistake, and they go out of their way not to do that because they don't want to embarrass the referees, right? Anybody ringside could have gone, hey, the fight was stopped with 3 seconds left, TKO. Just, that's it, done, easy. And look, Mergliata has some egg on his face if that happens, but the reality is the right call is made. I have no problem if they correct it, if they make the right call. In fact, I don't even blame Big Dan in that scenario. Look, he thinks he heard a horn, okay, but ultimately we have to get the right outcomes. We can't just allow this to skate by, and when we make these mistakes, we compound it by not correcting it. But that's a huge problem.
He thinks he heard the horn, but then he had to go over to Kyle Nelson and explain that, oh, actually, man, the fight is still going on. And it's also like Kyle Nelson is raining down massive shots on Frevola. I honestly was surprised it even made it to the 3-second mark. And then he calls the fight. It's clearly over. I was watching it with 4 or 5 people, and like everyone's sitting there just like, how is this fight continuing? I think everybody who was watching nationwide and around the world was like, how is this fight continuing? The commentary booth, everyone's saying it. I just don't understand, to Rick's point, how no one at any point down the line is just like, brother, you called it a TKO. The fight is over. Whether it was your mistake or not, accept the egg on your face. Like, I actually don't think anybody would be saying anything bad. It looked like
there's no egg. It was a good stoppage.
Yeah. Like, it was a good stoppage. It made sense. It's just like, how does no one at any point try to fix this mistake? It was a disaster class of a night for Dan Miragliotta to then follow it up with the Kevin Holland and the Mike Malott one. I mean, you talk about, like, sort of, it makes a joke of the sport. It makes a mockery of the sport. It's this ongoing joke where it's just like, if you're a fighter, cheat, because they're never going to do anything about it. And it seems like week after week, month after month, card after card, it is just another example. When was the last time we were just like, a ref took a point? I don't think a point should have been taken there. I don't think I've ever heard that over the 4 years I've been working on this show, watching every single UFC card. I don't think I've ever heard, I don't think a point should have been taken there. It is always the opposite of that. It was always of, how the fuck do you not take a point in this situation? How many warnings can you get? How many fence grabs can you have? How many nut shots? How many eye pokes can you have before a point gets taken? It really does. It just makes it look like, I was watching with some people that don't normally watch, and they're like, man, this seems kind of stupid, no? I was like, yeah, it does seem kind of stupid.
I've seen Goddard do that before when he's outside of the octagon and he's watching an event, and there was a similar situation where a stoppage was being disputed, and he was like on a camera looking at what happened. He was like, "No, this fight's over." I don't think it was in a UFC event. I think it was more a regional event. But just to Rick's point, that can happen. I've seen it happen at MMA events before. I think referees in any sport, I think most of them, they don't want to be seen. I think the best ones, like, if everything's going well, you don't even really think about them being there, especially in boxing. Get out of the way, let them fight. I think the same applies to MMA. The problem is, as we're all saying here, it's every week we're coming in and we're talking about this. And to be fair, I don't think there's a quick fix. I don't think it's an easy thing where, well, just do this, this, and this, and it will all be sorted, because they're all different situations. Like you're mentioning Keith Peterson and the Hughes Usman fight, very different to this calamity that Miragliotta had the weekend. I don't know what they have to do to make this go away, clean it up a bit, but it feels like something has to be done at this stage.
I do feel there's a quick fix. The quick fix is accountability. The quick fix is taking action. Every time we're in these scenarios.
Like, what does accountability mean to you?
Okay, well, I'll explain. In this scenario, somebody should have said, okay, this is what Big Dan should have said. This is what I heard. This is why I stopped the fight. I got that one wrong. I got that one right. Whatever ultimately he feels. Okay. There should also be the replay official or whoever is cage side taking a look at this to either confirm or deny what he's saying as well, and then put that out there. Every time these scenarios happen, there's nobody that has an explanation. Everybody seems to be confused, and then there's nobody speaking on behalf of it. If we have those things, then at least there's some kind of justification, and we can understand it. I don't think we're ever going to eliminate referee errors, but if every time there is one, it seems like everybody's confused about what's going on. Like, oh, what happened? Oh, is this fight still going? Nobody seems to have control over this. Nobody seems to be an authority. Nobody seems to be representing this in terms of talking to people about what's happening. If those things happen, I think they're easier to swallow. That's what we need.
It's so frustrating to watch the fouls not getting penalized.
Yeah,
like, I love when they're like,
that's what I mean.
You can't do it again. You can't. What does that mean?
Don't do it again.
Yes.
And then they go and they do it again every time. It's absolutely crazy. Also, can we get an earpiece or like something? Can the meta glasses maybe like display the time left in the round? It's like coming in early. We've also seen them where they come in late, where it's just like, you
didn't hear
they just keep fighting.
There was
like
a fight that went on like 10 seconds. What was that recently? It was on a pay-per-view.
I want to say it was on the last pay-per-view card. Yeah, I mean, it's
been such a bad stretch for officiating and judging, right? I mean,
to have this just 3 weeks. 2 weeks after the Jake Matthews incident in Perth is insane.
You made the best point, Ariel, which is the UFC can say all they want, like, you know, these are independent officials and we don't appoint them and yada yada, and nor should they, right? I don't want necessarily the UFC having as much influence in that as they can, but to the casual fan, they all think the UFC are the judges. They all think the UFC are the referees. They have no idea that this is an independent thing. And so it's reflecting poorly on the UFC. The same way if there's a boxing thing, they're going to say, oh, they're in the pocket of XYZ fighter. They're in the pocket of XYZ promoter. They're always going to tie it to the promotion. They're always going to tie it to that and think that there's something nefarious going on. If we have more transparency, if we take this more seriously in terms of who we're appointing, this will alleviate everything. It will help everything. I don't think we can ever stop mistakes unless we have robots doing it. And even then, I wouldn't necessarily trust that there's no mistakes. But the accountability afterwards, the correcting of errors afterwards has to be done for this to continue.
You know what's weird about it is, like, this weekend, they're going to be in Abu Dhabi. This is all run by the UFC. When they go to Europe, it's all... So, like, to pretend that it's so separate is crazy to me. You know what I mean? Like... When the UFC didn't like Mazzagatti, they got rid of Mazzagatti. You never heard from him again. When they didn't like John McCarthy, he wasn't assigned to their events. So why can't they, take a little bit of that money, start doing seminars, start finding people? And I've said this time and again, why would anyone, unless they just want to be there because they're a super fan, why would anyone sign up for this job? It's the worst job on the planet. It's the most thankless job on the planet. You do something great, no one pays attention to you. No one notices you. You don't get any sort of recognition whatsoever. You mess up ever so slightly, the whole world wants to come and choke you. And oh, by the way, you're doing it for $1,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what's the point? There's no upside to this whatsoever.
Actually, though, why would you become an MMA referee?
It's the worst job in the world. It's so hard.
The boxing, the money is absolutely shite as well. Like, I mean, seriously. Like, look, the
and it's
boxing
hard.
main events. Boxing main events. Like, what was it? Maymac, the referee got like something crazy. It was a fraction of the purse or something, like, like as in what he was paid. And then you're having these lads doing championship fights for $1,000, as you say.
Doesn't that make sense though, right? For the biggest fight, they are paid commensurate with the occasion. They are paid what it deserves for this occasion. And so we can't keep not trying to fix the system and then acting like something's going to change. This is just going to continue and continue and continue. And to your point, Ariel, like, this is thankless. Like, you have to do this for the love of the game or not at all. Like, there's no reason to do this because the compensation is not commensurate.
It's the worst job. You got to travel all over the world.
Yeah.
You're getting paid. You're working multiple fights on the card. It's like split-second decisions, right? I mean, like, it's so hard to be a referee. You have to try to see if the guy's out, if he's not, if you know what I mean?
Like,
a great night
and
for
everyone
you,
hates you.
A great night for you is you flew into Fresno at 4 a.m. You spent 12 hours in an arena. You left. You got $500, and nobody mentioned your name.
Yeah.
That's your best case scenario.
Are you not sitting there just like, all right, time for UFC 321. Like, this is a perfect night if I just don't royally fuck up and become like the topic of MMA Twitter.
And mess it up, and you got freaking Aiden Ross out there, like going crazy.
Yeah,
I bet the under 2.5 in that fight. That is disgusting.
How did you react? Everyone's so mad. A lot of the vitriol, by the way, comes from people like you, right? You would admit that, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I like I mentioned, I was watching it with several people, so I was like, damn, this is crazy. They're keeping the fight going, and then when the over 2.5 hit, I was just like, man, that's wild, man. I can't believe Murgliata did that. Like, it's crazy stuff.
But
inside, I'm just raging.
It's fair to say, though, I think we all, just based on the end of this conversation, have sympathy for the referees and the judges and the commission. It's not that we are trying to attack them, but if they are put in this position, we deserve better than this. That's ultimately where this is at.
And the fighters, most importantly,
the fighters deserve exactly
better. Like, the guy who got kicked in the nuts deserves better. The guy who thought he won the fight deserves better. The guy who's going the distance deserves better. They all freaking deserve better. You know, like, there's just so much going against these fighters. Not to mention the fact that they don't get paid that much to begin with. But there's bonuses, there's show win, all that stuff. Where it's like, oh, what exactly are we watching?
Also,
what exactly is happening here?
Frevola also took a good amount of damage at the end of that first round. Imagine if he had come out, he's still got cobwebs and he gets knocked out again or something like that. Like, the damage to the fighter as well is problematic.
Well, also, if you're Kyle Nelson, your work was done 2 rounds ago. Why do I have to keep fighting for 2 more rounds?
Right. The difference in celebration between like, wait, what the fuck? I'm still fighting, and like, you end the first round with a dub and then you get to go celebrate with your family and everything is huge. Is BT texting or is he asleep?
Someone was just out there getting onto me there.
Fell asleep.
I thought you fell asleep.
I honestly,
you know what it is?
I wish you were asleep. I wish we heard.
I was trying to point to you guys. I didn't want you to wake him up. Were you sleeping?
I heard just like a quiet.
I've actually contacted a lot of people with Mr. Moneybird coming on the show today from my former life in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
And I've been getting blown up by different skepticisms they have about this man and whatnot. So very much looking forward. No. The Irish BJJ scene is talking to me right now about
this. Okay, all right.
They're very excited for this.
You craned that neck to text, man.
Yeah, that was like you.
It's here. I don't want to be like this.
Yeah, I got you.
You think you're subtle by completely looking down.
Yeah.
I'll do this in future.
Yeah, not just the right.
But then you can close your eyes if you put it in front.
I thought we were having a Mike Francesa moment. You guys ever see that where he's interviewing? Is it A-Rod?
PT never would have been able to live that down if he was actually asleep.
Shout out to the Pope.
If we heard a tiny little snore there, just like a...
Oh, you would have. I think Elaine had to move rooms.
Don't worry.
We're almost done.